Today we are talking about graphing intercepts. So what I'm going to have you do is open up slide 16. So everybody go to classwork, go to slide 16. Are you paying attention? Click on slide 16 and it only opens up one slide. Then you're going to open up your slides. So have your slides open and then my slide 16 and go over here and hit copy paste or copy, Control C, and then go over here and go in between 15 and whatever 16 is right now and hit Control V. And it looks like this at first. I want you to click Keep Original Styles. If you don't keep original styles, it's going to change it and make it look funky. So you'll have to do copy and paste again and then hit Keep Original Styles. So now your slide 15 looks like this, or should. Slide 16 looks like this. If it didn't copy over correctly, delete it, copy and paste it again until you get it right. Make sure you click Keep Original Styles. Okay, were you able to do it? So look at slide 15. It says parts of linear equations, x and y intercepts, and then slope and intercepts. So we have these pages to complete. Okay, so let's start on the left side. Does anybody need help with that? If you do, ask someone around you for some help. Okay, so let's look at the left side. Parts of linear equations, x and y intercepts. What does the word intercept mean? Intercept? Huh? Yeah. Intercept is where two things intersect, where they touch each other. So the x-intercept is a point where a graph crosses the x-axis. So drag over x-axis. So the x-intercept happens when the y-coordinate, which that is spelled incorrectly, coordinate is 0. To find the x-intercept from an equation, maybe? Let me see. So we're going to have to add text box there. We don't have to drag and drop. From an equation, replace y with or f of x with 0 and solve for x. So make sure yours matches mine, and we'll go over how to do this. This is just the steps. So the x-intercept is a point where a graph crosses the x-axis. X-intercepts happen when the y-coordinate is 0. To find the x-intercept from an equation, replace y or f of x with 0 and solve for x. Okay, the y-intercept. The point where a graph crosses if we're talking about a y-intercept, it's where it crosses the y-axis. Y-intercepts happen when the x-intercept, so it's the opposite of the last one. X coordinate is, oh, we're going to have to add a text box, 0. To find the y-intercept from an equation, replace, so instead of replacing the x with 0, the y with 0, we're going to replace the x with 0. And solve for y. So the y-intercept is a point where a graph crosses the y-axis. Y-intercepts happen when the x-coordinate is 0. To find the y-intercept from an equation, replace x with 0 and solve for y. Okay, so let's look at the other side, slopes and intercepts. We are going to write the equation from the graph, find the slope, x-intercept, and y-intercept. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, before we write the equation, we need to know the slope. So let's find the slope. In order to find the slope, we need 2 points, and then we'll count rise over run. So I'm going to get a little circle and find 2 points. Looks like 0, -2 is a coordinate. I'm going to put a little circle there and color it red. -2 is a point. Now copy and paste that point and let's find another point. Looks like there's another one at 1, 1. See where it crosses exactly through? So we're going to put a 1, 1 right there. A point at 1, 1. Let's see if we can find any more points. Let's see, what about 2, 4? See how it goes exactly through the middle of those corners? So that's a perfect lattice point. So from these points, I can find the slope by counting rise over run to get from one point to the next. So I'll start at the leftmost point. So I'm going to start here. Let's rise. Let's see how many times we have to rise. So watch my mouse as I move it up. 1, 2, 3. Rise 3, run 1. And if that's the correct slope, I should be able to do that again to get to that that third point. So rise 1, 2, 3 over 1. So my slope is m equals 3. It's 3 over 1. I'm just going to put 3. Okay, my x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. About where does it cross? We don't know right now, so let's just wait on that. What about our y-intercept? Do we know where it crosses the y-axis? -2. So we can write this as a coordinate. What is the coordinate for that y-intercept? What's the x? 0, -2. Or we could write it as b equals -2 because that's for the equation. Okay, so once I have my m and my b, I can write my equation. Because it's y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to write that y equals mx plus b. And then I'm going to plug in my m and my b. So it's going to be y equals m is 3. So 3x plus -2. Or I could write it as y equals 3x minus 2. Either way is correct. So the x-intercept is whenever y is 0, right? So let's find out what would make the 0. So it's like 0 equals 3x minus 2, right? Because we plug in a 0 for y and then solve for x. So how would I solve this? You want to do it on paper? So just on your paper, graphing standard form. So this is actually slide 15 first. I have this already written, but we just need to find our x-intercept real quick so we can use the first part. The top part of it, I guess. So 0 equals 3x minus 2. Was that right? We want to find our x-intercept where it crosses the x-axis. So how would we solve for x? Yeah, add 2. And that gives us 2 equals 3x. And then what would we do? Divide by 3. What does 2 over 3 give us? What's that as a decimal? Yeah, 0.6 repeating equals x. So let's look at our graph and see if that's true. I'm going to put x equals 0.6. I don't know if I can do a thing on the top. Does that look about 0.6 repeating? Yeah, that's good. So let's write this as a coordinate. So it'd be 0.6 repeating, or 2/3 0 is the coordinate for the x-intercept. So anytime you want the x-intercept, you plug in a 0 for y and solve. Okay, let's go to the next one. Equation, slope, x-intercept, y-intercept. Let's do the equation first. So in order to find the equation, we would find some points. So I'm going to copy and paste those little red points that I had from earlier down for this example. So let's find some lattice points, ones that go perfectly through the line, or perfectly through a point. So it looks like 0, 3 is one of them. And then 2, -1. Is that right? Is there another one that I missed? 1, 1. Okay, cool. 3, -3. Okay, cool. Great. So let's find our slope. So we start at the leftmost point, and I'm going to, if I am doing rising, which way am I going to get to the next point? Am I going to go up or down from this 0, 3? Down how many? 2. And right how many? Okay, can I continue to do that? Down 1, 2, right 1. Down 1, 2, right 1. So then what is our slope? -2. Don't forget that negative. Okay, x-intercept, where do you think it is? Yeah, maybe around 1.5. So let's come back to that. What about our y-intercept? 3. So how would I write that? So I put b = 3. Switched on accident. Okay, so b = 3, and I can also write it as the coordinate of 0, 3. So write it as both. Y'all see that? Move it up. Charge it? Is that what you said? Yeah. If it's about to die. Okay. All right, so then we need to write our equation. Let's finish this one problem before you get up. Our equation is mx plus b. So we're going to plug in what we know. Y equals -2x plus b, so plus 3. Y-intercept is 3, rise -2, run 1, down 2 over 1, so on. Okay, so that looks good. And our x-intercept is found by, what do I need to plug in? What did we do up here? Plugged in a 0 for y and solved. So we're going to plug in a 0 for y and solve. I have 0 equals -2x plus 3. So write that down in your composition book, and we're going to solve, find out what x equals, so we can find our coordinate. So this was the second example. Okay, so how would we solve this so we can find out what that intercept is? Yeah. So negative 3 equals negative 2x. Swap both sides by negative 2. Use your calculator to divide negative 3 by negative 2. Positive 1.5, yep. And isn't that what we guessed just by looking at it? Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's put that in. X equals 1.5. And then if we write it as a coordinate, it'd be 1.5 comma 0. And the reason why I wrote that as a decimal is because it is not repeating. The other one was repeating. That's why I wrote it as a fraction. Okay, let's move on to slide 16, the new one that you copied and pasted over. If you didn't get that, make sure that you have somebody help you do that. Okay, graphing, standard form of linear equations. Okay, standard form is ax plus by equals c, where a is always positive. Go ahead and fill that in. So all of the graphs that y'all did yesterday were solved for y. They were in that slope-intercept form, the y equals form. But sometimes they're written in this form. If they're written in this form, then there's two ways that we can graph it. Method 1 would be to solve for y. And that way you have it in y equals mx plus b form. That's method 1. Method 2 is to find the x and y intercepts to graph. Connect with the line. Okay, so I'm going to give us an example to do. We're going to write it in our journal. So right underneath here, we're going to put graph 5x plus 2y equals 16. So we're going to do method 1. Solve for y. So we have 5x plus 2y equals 16. We are going to solve this for y so we can graph it with the y equals mx plus b. So we're going to do minus 5x on both sides, because remember we're solving for y. We can't combine 16 and 5x, so it's just going to be 2y equals negative 5x plus 16, because I want it in mx plus b form. So I'm going to write my mx first. And then divide by 2 all the way through. So it's y equals, because we are graphing it, we're going to keep our slope as a fraction. Don't change it because we can do rise over run with this. So 16 over 2 would make it 8. Okay, you should have a ruler on your desk. If you don't, you'll need to grab one from another desk or up front on the chalkboard rail or at the back of the room. So grab one real quick. So draw your X and Y axis. We need to make sure that we can graph an 8 on our Y axis because that's our Y intercept. So just make sure you go up enough. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's my X and Y axis. So how do we graph this? What do you graph first on your equation when it's in mx plus b form? The y-intercept, which is your b, is 8. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then what do we do? Negative 5 over 2. So rise negative 5, run 2. So that actually means go down 5, right 2 from that point. So go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right 2. Let's do it again. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right 2. And if you can do another one, then go ahead and do another one. If you can't, that's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right 2. And then connect with a line. A pointer on whenever you do your lines, when you have your dots, line up your ruler just below the dots. Push it down really hard. Make sure you apply good pressure so it doesn't move. And then connect your points. Put arrows on the end. Okay, so that would be how to graph using y equals. Okay, so that's method 1. We're going to do method 2, which is find the intercepts and graph those. Method 2. There we go. So for method 2, to find your x and y intercepts, so let's say we want to find our x-intercept. We are going to plug in 0 for y. Then solve for x. So this is 5x plus 2y equals 16. So for the x-intercept, where it crosses the x-axis, where do you think it crosses? 3.1, 3.3, something like that? Okay. So let's see. It says plug in 0 for y. So that means I'm going to do 5x plus 2 times 0 equals 16. I plugged in a 0 for y. If you have 2 times 0, that's just 0. So I'm just going to cross it out. And I'm left with 5x equals 16. So how do I solve for x? Yep, divide by 5. So what does x equal? What's 16 divided by 5? 3.2? Okay, cool. So this point is at 3.2, comma 0. So we're going to label them on here. And then what's our y-intercept? How do we write that as a coordinate? 8, you'd go over 8. We want to do 0, 8. I know, those always get confusing. So let's just double check that whenever I plug in a 0 for x, that I get 8. So y-intercept is found. Plug in 0 for x, solve for y. Plug in 0 for x, solve for y. So we're going to do 5 times 0 this time because it's 5x, so 5 times 0, plus 2 times y equals 16. 5 times 0 is 0. So then all we have is 2y equals 16. What do we do to find out what y is? Divide by 2. What does y equal? Yeah, y equals 8. Which we wrote over here, 0, 8. Okay, so we have method 1, which is solving for y. Method 2 is finding your intercepts. When we finish our notes, we'll take a picture of this and upload it to this. All right, let's go to, we're going to do this again, but with another example. So I'm going to go back to my composition book. And we are going to do both methods. So 3x plus 5y equals 15. Instead of doing both methods, let's just find the intercepts and graph. So we're doing, basically, that's our method 2. And that's what we're really focusing on today anyway. So we'll just do that. So to get our x-intercept, what do? Yep, plug in 0 for y. So it's going to be 3x plus 5 times 0 equals 15. Five times 0 is 0, so we can just mark it out and write 3x equals 15. How do I solve for x? Divide by 3, so x equals 5. Okay, let's do our y-intercept. How am I going to find my y-intercept? Plug in 0 for which one? Yeah. So it'll be 3 times 0 plus 5, y equals 15. So that is 3 times 0 is 0. So I get 5y equals 15. So divide by 5. So y equals 3. So let's graph it. Let's make an x and a y. It doesn't have to be huge. That's just mine. Label your x and y. Okay. And then we need to graph our x-intercept. So go to 5 on the x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Label that point. 5, 0. And then your y is 3. So go up on the y-axis to 3. Because that's your y-intercept. And that's at 0, 3. Connect to make your line. So we're only graphing our x and y intercept to make the line. Can you have a line that doesn't have a y-intercept? If it doesn't have a y-intercept, then you're going to write none. You wouldn't write 0, you just write none. So I'm going to pass out your assignment so y'all can start to work on that. And we'll look at one of the problems together. Okay, let's look at the assignment that should be passed out to you now. You can pause the video if you need to. So graphing intercepts, exit ticket. So make sure you write your intercepts right as a point. So find out where those intercepts are and then write those as coordinates. So your x-intercept is right here. So that is at -3, 0. And then our y-intercept is right here, which would be at 0, -3. Okay, so you'll finish these. Look at number 3. We have an x-intercept. Let's just assume it's right here. The line doesn't look exactly on it, but I think it just got moved where I printed it. The y-intercept, do we have one? So we just write none. Or we can write undefined. Okay, 4, 5, and 6, it says find the x-intercept and y-intercept. So that's where you are going to plug in a 0 for x-intercept. Plug in 0 for y. And then y-intercept, you're going to plug in 0 for x. And solve. Okay, so that's just like what we did on those examples. Make sure you write your x-intercept out once you get that. And then 7 and 8 says graph the equation using intercepts. Label the points where the line crosses the axis. You can graph this one just like we did yesterday. But this one, you're going to find your intercepts and graph that, which that looks like the same as our example. All right, this is due tomorrow. So let me know if you have any questions.